Hello and welcome to Xena Warrior Podcast. My name is Vera and I'm joined as always by my two spicy co-hosts. Katie.
Hello.
And Livy.
Hi.
This week we are doing our first mailbag episode.
Hey.
Woo!
Mailbag.
We never thought of something to call it that wasn't like a saddle bag.
I wanted to call it something
it?
like with Hermes in the title because, you know, he's like the messenger god. But then Katie pointed out that it would be like Hermes bag, which is confusing just on a lot of levels.
I'm okay with calling it mailbag for now, I suppose. Thank you so much, guys, for submitting all of your amazing questions. They were so good that we couldn't even do them all, I think.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to hold over some for a future mailbag episode. So if you don't hear your question here, don't worry. We promise we will get to it eventually.
Yeah. So let's begin.
Yo.
First question is from Gesher Sarmiad from Tumblr.
We are sorry if we get your name.
We're going to butcher the names.
Yeah.
And the question is, what would be your go-to episode for starting someone on Xena who is pretty hesitant about it?
That's a hard one.
I would say the pilot.
Yeah.
Because the pilot is really strong and it sets up the story really well.
So just the first one.
The first one, honestly, no offense, you have to sort of show the first one.
Well, I would say, I kind of agree as well, but also we have done this to our friend.
Who's
and
our
the
friend?
episodes.
I love that it's like, I have done this to someone.
Well, I did it to my friends, and you guys liked the pilot. So
No, you started me on the Hercules episodes, and it didn't take.
Right.
So maybe that's
yeah.
a sign.
But also,
by
you
Hercules
weren't ready.
Yeah,
Like the
I
time
wasn't
the
ready.
universe wasn't
It's true.
ready for you to love Xena.
That's also the thing to remember if you have a hesitant friend, is sometimes, you got to wait till they're a little less hesitant.
Yeah.
But we did Been There, Done That in A Day in the Life.
That's right, with one of our hesitant friends, and she really loved it. Yeah.
Shout out to Nora, who comes up with all the adjectives
I don't know
for
if
the
Nora's
show.
hesitant about
That's
Xena.
true. She's very supportive. She listens to the podcast without seeing the show. I bet she's
You're
the only
saying
person
That
listening.
it didn't take.
who that's
It
true
did not
for.
take. We should have started with the pilot.
But I think the idea of like showing a very good like later thing that you don't need super a lot of context for.
And it sounds like if your go-tos are Day in the Life and Been There, Done That, you like the lighter, kind of subtext heavy episodes
Me?
that are fun.
Me personally,
Well, as a recruiter
but yes,
episode.
but yes, I love everything.
Like that for you is the most representative thing about the show. What's weird is it's really hard to pick like this is the most representative episode because the show just takes so many different forms that like it's hard to know what. I feel like you have to look at your friend and be like, do you like action? Do you like romance? Do you like drama? Do you like comedy? And kind of work from there. I started My Very Hesitant Family with Athens City Academy for the Performing Parts.
That was a choice.
It was a little bit at random because I needed to watch that episode for the podcast, but it kind of worked.
Nice.
It's a clip show, and it filled them in on a lot of the stuff that they needed to know to understand the show. So while I'm not recommending you do that, I'm here to tell you that it does work.
All right.
That's awesome. So the second part of the question is, what's the one thing you'd change about the plot or writing of Xena?
Ooh.
That's a tricky one again. We're going to say this about every question. We're going to be like, oh, that's hard. Questions are hard. I would say, like, if we're taking the macro view, like, of all of Xena, I would probably point to some stuff in season 6 with Eve that I would definitely want to do something different there.
Yes.
I would also say that Callisto there could have been more of
Always
Callisto.
more Callisto.
That's just
interesting.
I really like what's there. It's not like I would change anything,
Yeah.
but I feel like I would just almost like slow down her arc just so you could like have more of her throughout the show.
Well, when you think about how many episodes she's actually in, it's like shockingly not a lot. Like you think she's in way more than she is because her presence looms so large.
It's true. It's true.
I would serialize it. Oops.
Oh, wow. That's a big change, Vera.
We'll come back to it and all the
You would
reboot
remove
questions.
all the kung fu fighting.
I mean, but again, we will circle this back.
Vera would just change everything about her favorite
back.
show. She would just make it unrecognizable.
We'll circle
I can't believe we have pins that we're going to unpin in the mailbag episode.
Okay, so should we move on to the next question?
Yes.
Okay. So, Victoria on Twitter asks, ridiculous Xena eps are always fun. Is there anyone you would have liked to see? I'd have loved a talk show paternity test. That's pretty funny, like a Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
I mean,
sit-down.
they almost do a talk show. Well,
They do. They
documentary
use
talk
some
show
of that.
portion.
Yeah, I was brainstorming responses for this question and going like, oh, found footage. Oh, but they've done that. You know. Oh, like competition show. Oh, but they've done that. Like, it's actually hard to think of format ideas that they haven't tackled.
Expand upon it though. Like, I would totally love to see a Great British Bake Off style.
that was my answer. I cannot believe you.
Wait, but how would that work?
So
How
it would be
dare.
like Great Athens Bake Off, and you would have Salmoni as guest star, of course, and it would just be like, because you would be, discussing how like Xena hates to cook, and like Gabrielle maybe sometimes makes
Can't
the thing with
believe
the sauce.
The red stuff.
We'd find out what the red
Yes,
stuff is.
it would come back.
I can't believe you guys both thought of that.
Yes. Mary Berry could be on it, even though they're not on Bake Off anymore. No.
So I guess that's the winner.
I would have had a whole episode just about Meg. Like, do
Ooh,
you know,
maybe
like,
Meg could be there?
yeah, like the Buffy episode, the Zeppo. I would have done that, but for Meg.
That's
the,
a terrible
The
episode
obvious answer
of
is
Buffy.
Joxer, to do a Joxer focused one. But I
Absolutely
think
not.
Meg-
Why are you ruining this?
Well,
this is about Xena's inability to cook. And we're exploring that aspect of her character.
Yeah, but I feel like Meg is a really fascinating character, and I would have just loved a whole episode where like Gabrielle and Xena didn't appear, and you just see the life of Meg.
She does run a tavern later.
Yeah, I'm sure she gets up to all sorts of mischief.
Totally.
Next question.
All right. Samantha on Facebook asks, do you think Gabrielle was aware of Xena's past or reputation when she chose to follow her in Sins of the Past, and to what extent? And what does this say about Gabrielle's character? Ooh.
I mean, she is to a certain extent. Just because, her parents are kicking Xena out of town because of her bad reputation.
Right. She does have a bad reputation.
But how much does she know?
She doesn't give a damn about
She
her
doesn't
bad
care.
reputation.
Sing a song. Wait, what do you mean they're aware of her? Is this talking about like the very first scene?
Like in
Yeah.
Sins
when
of the
she-
Past, how much does Gabrielle, like how much is she aware of Xena's past? Like
When
how much is she aware
follows
of
her
like
out of town?
knowing that she was this big evil warlord person?
Well, certainly I think that her first impression of seeing her save all of them
Right.
in the, shift was like a cool lady who just appeared and did this.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe later she was like, finds out, oh, it's Xena and she's a bad lady, but I'm still like, but how could she be bad? She just did this in front of me.
Right.
You know what
I
mean?
feel like that contradiction would add
Yeah.
to the fascination of Gabrielle.
Absolutely.
And also, we've talked multiple times about Gabrielle having a type, this
Yes.
damaged hero type.
Absolutely.
So the damage is an important part of the package.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this rolls right into the next question here from Lisa on Facebook. Gosh. This question may be better for later in the podcast, but the podcast makes a lot of points about Xena's type for boyfriends. But I think there's a pattern emerging for what she looks for in a woman as well. The seemingly morally pure, innocent, full of life, and probably barely legal, LOL, Malila, Akemi, and Gabrielle. I'm happy with it just being a type, but do you think on a deeper level, Xena is emotionally, psychologically... But do you think on a... Fuck, I'll start again.
Just be like emotionally or
I like slash.
Okay, so or say slash.
Yeah.
I'm happy with it just being a type, but do you think on a deeper level, Xena is emotionally / psychologically stunted at this age? Because instead of being a teenager and discovering herself organically, she was defending her town and then leading a conquering army. I could be overthinking it because Lao Ma and presumably Cleopatra do not fit this mold, and I'm interested in hearing your thoughts.
Twisted.
This is a great one because I feel like I don't spend nearly enough time thinking about Xena's type in girlfriends because I spend so much time thinking about Gabrielle's.
I mean, we were talking about this question earlier, and you, Katie, said that the thing with Akemi, who obviously we haven't gotten to yet on the podcast, and Malila, is that they weren't younger. Yeah. They weren't jailbait when Xena met them. Yeah. Xena herself would be like 17, 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
Still illegal if they're below.
No. Yeah, it's difficult because it's like you do have this conception when you're watching it, especially, the later stuff where Xena looks a lot older, but they're doing a flashback. So it's like you think that there's this dynamic that actually doesn't exist because Xena and Akemi were probably a lot closer in age. So it's interesting, though, because definitely Gabrielle is younger than Xena.
And, of course, it's not only the age. It is a certain purity and innocence, which you do feel like even when the age difference is slight, Xena's hankering for that. I mean, Malila isn't very innocent. Malila's seen more of the world than Xena.
Yeah. But certainly the show absolutely wanted there to be a connection between Akemi and Gabrielle. So.
Yeah.
The biggest age difference is between Xena and Gabrielle.
It's true,
It's true.
I mean, Gabs is definitely barely
What is the age difference? It is like 10 years.
It's like 10 years,
The all-important 10 years.
But I do love what you bring up, Lisa, regarding her psychology, and I do think that part of it is these, very young, innocent girls, and they are being, what's the word I'm looking for?
Groomed? I don't know.
What is the word? Like, she's an influence. Influence? Okay. Yeah. They are being influenced by Xena. It is definitely a pattern.
I mean, it's a sad pattern in that if what she's drawn to in them is their innocence and their sweetness, her presence kind of slowly removes that innocence and sweetness. So it's this weird cycle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think there's definitely some kind of, trying to recapture her lost youth and, trying to be that little girl in Amphipolis again in this sad, sweet way.
Next question.
This is a toughie.
Yeah.
Emily on Twitter asks, who's the top, Xena or Gabs?
Why not both?
That's my answer. It depends, man.
I think it depends how they're feeling that night or that morning.
or that midday. Or on that horse.
Evening.
She likes what I do.
I mean, I personally always love the topping from the bottom. So I'm not sure who that would apply to. I think that once again could apply to either in certain circumstances. Yeah. So
their power dynamics are definitely very fascinating for these. But I definitely think that your situation shall vary.
I think Xena might be the bottom 52% of the time.
Really?
I think so.
Yeah, but not when they first started.
No.
Gabrielle had to get to that place, and her journey is amazing.
Are you just saying that because you think it's too obvious to say Xena all the time?
I just tend to think that people who just in their daily lives are really in control and are powerful people,
not in their daily lives,
with someone they love and trust, giving up control becomes the highest thing. So that's how I tend to see things. But I also am very adamant that there aren't these hard and fast assigned roles.
Exactly.
They would need to switch depending on what's going on between them. Yeah.
I'm just imagining them in the 50 Shades Red room right now.
Oh my god. Good one. Hazard Jess on Twitter asks, as a 12-year-old, Xena was my favorite character. I watched it again as an adult, and it was Gab I appreciated much more. Who is your favorite character?
That is like the hardest question we have been asked today.
I thought your favorite character was Cyrene.
It is.
Oh, no.
You're right. Not so hard after all. I do love Cyrene very much.
I think this is really similar to me in the sense that when I watched it, I for sure was just like absolutely just taken with Xena. I'd never seen anything like that quite in my life at the time, or kind of still. It's not saying that I never liked Gabrielle, but I just never like focused on her ever because Xena was there. Upon rewatch, I am still extremely, absolutely Xena is like my favorite. Not like that's hard to say. I love them both, but like I'm still smitten with Xena. You know,
Xena and Gabrielle were falling off a cliff. Who would you save?
Oh my god!
Oh my god! I would save Xena.
Oh my god!
Xena wouldn't need
But
saving.
Xena would be holding Gabrielle, so it's fine.
Yeah,
Like,
there's so many ways out of that cliff scenario.
But I do have to say that as an adult, like watching Gabrielle, like I never understood just the complexity of her arc. I never picked up on so many amazing details about Renee's performance and just like everything. Like I was just blown away by that. So like upon rewatch, my love of Xena remained steady, but like my love of Gabrielle grew exponentially.
I guess that makes sense. When you're little, you're more just sort of struck by the awesomeness of a character. And when you grow up, you look at like the complexity and how much they've been through and how much they've changed. I don't know if when you're younger, like change is as attractive to you in a character. Yeah.
They're both my favorite.
Okay. So, Jerica on Twitter says, in honor of Harry Potter's 20th anniversary, what Hogwarts houses would our beloved characters belong to?
Yes.
And then also what are our houses?
Oh, okay.
We can do our houses for.
All right. What do you guys, what's your houses?
Well, I never took the Pottermore thing, so I can't say to that.
Oh, so you're a muggle.
I am a muggle.
Oh, no.
Well, I chose not to take it. Does that still make me a muggle?
I don't know.
But I did take the Time magazine test, which is clearly more official. And I got Ravenclaw with Hufflepuff tendencies.
Me too.
1% Gryffindor and 0% Slytherin.
Wow.
I was 80% Ravenclaw, which is normally my house, but for Pottermore, I was sorted into Slytherin.
Pottermore, I think, has a tendency to sort people into Slytherin.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They have like no patience for
I know a lot of
people.
Slytherins on Pottermore, and I don't think any Ravenclaws.
Interesting.
So, not sure what that means.
What's yours?
On Pottermore, I was a Hufflepuff, and it was such a life-changing moment for me because I had always thought of myself as a Ravenclaw. Like, I had just assumed I would be a Ravenclaw, and then I got Hufflepuff, and it was just like an identity crisis.
Wow.
I was just like, whoa, okay. And now I love it. Like, I feel like I reckoned with it. And I was like, yeah, you know, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. I can just embrace my love of food and conversation. And yeah. So thank you, J.K. Rowling, for sorting me there. Unfortunately, on Time, my identity crisis was reversed, and it put me into Ravenclaw. But it's like almost exactly a 50% split. I am 51% Ravenclaw, 47% Hufflepuff. So I would be a hat stall in Potter. You guys remember hat stalls?
No.
That's like when the hat doesn't know where to put you, and you just sit there like a goober for 20 minutes.
And then eventually it flips a coin?
Yeah.
Or what? Okay.
Yeah.
So what about Xena and Gabs?
All right.
Important question.
We're going to, perhaps this will get on the Twitter. We will fight people on this one, but definitely give us your opinions on this. I had very specific answers for this one.
And I seconded them.
Olivia seconded them. And then I did go do some Googling because I knew there had to be posts out there where people were sorting them, and I wanted to see what other people said. And then Olivia and I took the Time Magazine recent quiz as Xena, and as Gabrielle.
Which is really fun, by the way. I recommend taking these quizzes as your favorite characters because it really lets you, like, you know, really inhabit them and understand what they're like. Yeah. It was a cool thing to do.
And Liv will attest that I ran around the house yelling in happiness because I felt like super vindicated by our answers.
We got exactly what we predicted we'd get.
Yes, because it was doing percentages, which gives you like the house and the tendencies. So, I mean, everyone, they're both Gryffindor.
Obviously.
They're both Gryffindor.
They are both so defined by their courage.
Yes, but this is what we said for Gabrielle. I said Gryffindor with Hufflepuff tendencies. And for Xena, we said Gryffindor with Slytherin tendencies. Let's see, what were the percents? It was Gabrielle had 75% Gryffindor and 16.6% Hufflepuff with just about 8% Ravenclaw and like no Slytherin. Gryffindor for Xena was 56% and Slytherin 22%. And then the other two balancing
she's actually very kind of diffuse.
Yeah. And they had different descriptions. So, like, their personality, Gabrielle's personality shows a high degree of courage and friendliness. And then Xena's said a high degree of courage and humility.
This all sounds exactly right to me.
Yeah. Like,
do you disagree, Vera?
No, this test is legit.
Yeah, so the internet, like, I think there was an After Ellen infographic that had sorted a bunch of characters into houses and had Xena and Gryffindor clearly. And then Gabrielle, I had seen a few times in the Google in Ravenclaw. And I will fight you on this one. That's not her house.
I don't think so. I mean, obviously, you know...
She has bits of it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Every character who loves reading and writing, you know, that's the tendency is to put them in there.
She certainly has a thirst for knowledge.
Yeah. But I feel like that's kind of part of her curiosity about the world and her courage. So it's very hard to separate those things.
It's the Hermione-esqueness of being
exactly.
in Gryffindor.
Yeah.
They're both Gryffindor. That's it. With the tendencies that we have stated. Come at us.
Okay, so jumping off of that question, we have Sarah B. on Twitter who asks, what would Xena and Gabrielle's Patronuses be? I did not, I goofed up the grammar there. Sarah B. did it right, but you see what I'm saying.
What be their Patronus?
What be the Patronuses?
Xena's, I think, would be a fish.
What? Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah.
I was thinking she might be like some kind of giant bird, like a hawk or an eagle, because she loves to fly.
I think she would be a giant fish.
Because of the water element?
That's true. Her
And
element
she
is
loves
water.
fishing.
Like a shark. No.
Maybe she could be like a seagull, and then we'd have both.
Okay, but what would Gabrielle's be?
I wanted her to be a wolf.
Oh.
Because I feel like they travel in packs. So they're, you know, they love other people or other wolves. But they're like really ferocious. They protect each other. And they're really smart.
I mean, yeah, but hear me out. I think she would be a lioness.
That kind of goes with my answer, yeah.
Yeah. But like the, you know, king of the jungle-y business. And you can differentiate a lioness from a lion really easily, unlike lady wolves.
I also sort of want Xena's Patronus to be Argo and Gabrielle's Patronus to be Tobias.
Oh, yeah.
Argyle!
I love it.
Oh, man. Katie, what is our next question?
Yes, Ghost Peter on Twitter asks, who would y'all say is the most important or iconic villain? Parentheses. It's Callisto, right? LOL.
Correct.
Yeah, correct.
Correct.
It is.
I mean, there are other memorable villains, but
Like Caesar?
I mean, Caesar,
Caesar's
for sure.
important. Alti's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like you just, like, Callisto sears herself into your brain.
yeah.
And just the fact that we mentioned how you think she's there for, like, the whole show, and she's only in it for, like, 6 or 7 episodes.
Yeah, it's like 7 episodes.
Yeah.
It's silly.
So that kind of makes it makes her be the
Ares
most
isn't a villain
important.
as much as he thinks he is.
No, yeah, I feel like he's sitting on that line between like anti-hero villain. But I mean, I just feel like Callisto is so personal to Xena.
Yes.
Like just beyond even Caesar, who obviously like vendetta, but that's about as far as it goes. It's not like Xena sees herself in Caesar.
Callisto is wrapped up in everything that Xena the character is trying to like overcome and change. It's so important to her character.
Yeah, she's literally the largest single roadblock in terms of Xena's redemption. Like that is like the anti-redemptive force in the show.
Ugh.
Okay, so kind of jumping off from that, we have Eric on Facebook asking, what kind of dynamic do you think would have played out had Callisto first confronted evil Xena instead of a reformed Xena? Is Callisto more interested in a reformed Xena over evil Xena? Which is actually a really, like, on the surface, this is a really easy to answer question. Like, if they were to meet evil Xena, would have had no compunction about just, like, killing Callisto, which is exactly what Callisto wanted.
Well, yeah, so Callisto would have gotten her wish, which is to die in a fight with Xena. Like, that's how it would have played out, because for sure they would have fought, and that's for sure what would have happened.
But at the same time, Eric, I think you're totally right that at some level, what attracts Callisto to Xena is the fact that she has reformed.
Yeah.
Like, Callisto wants to pull her off that pedestal. Yep. She wants to re-corrupt her in the same way that Xena once corrupted Callisto. So it's hard to say. I feel like Callisto just wouldn't be as interested in this whole scheme if Xena was still that evil warlord. Callisto might kill her. I don't know. That's a hard one.
Instatic on Twitter says, what if a wizard finds Hope on the river and sends her back in time for protection? She gets adopted by a couple who name her Callisto.
Oh my god, the timey-wimey.
Yeah. I mean, makes sense to me.
That would make Gabrielle Callisto's mom.
This hurts my brain.
Which is weird. It's just sort of weird. It would also make Eve Gabrielle's granddaughter.
Oh, this hurts my brain.
I love all of
it's
this.
So incestuous.
Ancient Greece.
Yeah.
Ancient Greece with time travel. Sign me up. All right, next question. Kathy on Facebook asks, are you going to cover all 6 years with the podcast? And have any of you ever met any of the cast of Xena or interviewed them?
Well, to answer the first one, we are definitely hoping to.
Oh my god. Yeah, I want to finish.
Yeah. We have so many pins. They need to be pinned.
So many pins are like for the finale.
Think of the pins, guys. Yeah.
I mean, I think we're all, like, the finale is, like, the thing we're grabbing at. We really want to talk about that.
Yeah,
so.
No other episode.
We're in it to win it, yeah.
Yes.
Have we met any of the cast or interviewed them? Well, because Lucy's listening right now, please call us and we will interview you.
Yes.
So much. But yeah, none of us have actually like met them.
Yeah, like
face
in a
to
hello
face.
kind of way.
Looked into their eyes.
Yes.
Before we killed them.
Oh no.
Because we love them so much.
Oh my god.
But you know my story. There was that one Dragon Con.
Me and Vera were there.
And me.
You were in the panel?
Way to erase me.
Wait, you were in that panel?
Yeah, I was there.
Are you serious?
I was totally there.
Oh my god.
man.
You know what I might have been confusing it with?
Gillian Anderson.
Exactly.
Yes.
You didn't go to any of the Gillian Anderson panels
No.
because you hadn't watched X-Files or seen Hannibal yet.
I'm a fail. And I hadn't seen any Xena, but I was like, I like Lucy Lawless. I've seen BSG. I'll go to
that's
that.
funny.
Nice.
That's
Yeah.
why I'm just like, Olivia doesn't go to any of the cool lady panels at Dragon Con.
Yeah, I am a fail.
But yeah, I got to ask my favorite question, which is your opinion on Steven X Fajita Roundup. Lucy Lawless, please talk about it.
The very first question.
Yeah, and
Do you remember it as if it was yesterday?
I remember it if it was just yesterday. Hi, Lucy.
Hi.
I love you and everything you've been in. But especially your SNL that you hosted back in the 90s.
90s. So last century. Yes?
If you remember, I wanted to ask you specifically about the very amazing sketch, Stevie Nicks Fajita Roundup.
I remember it well.
Yes. And how you prepared for that? Because it was genius.
That's good. We prepared for that. They ask you, have you got any talents? And you go, no, that's why I'm here. And they said, any mimicry? I said, well, as a kid, I kind of did Chrissy Hind and Stevie Nicks. And I said, oh, let's hear Stevie Nicks. So I did my little rendition. They were like, oh, perfect, that's a keeper. And then they wrote this fajita roundup. It's some joke about Stevie Nicks and Lindsay Buckingham who settled down and owned some roadside taco store, which as a non-American, I absolutely did not see what was funny about that a little bit. And I think it could happen. And so I think maybe that was the X factor in that particular skit, because I had no idea that it was funny, if it was funny, and that people would ever remember it. So just kind of magic alchemy.
So yeah, I have now come to realize that that must have been some kind of like bucket list thing, because I talk about it everywhere all the time.
It's the best.
It is absolutely the best question to ask her. Like, you really knew what you were doing, and like you were the first question on that panel, so you were like, yes, I'm there. You just ran up to that microphone.
I did, yes. Okay, so next question from Ryope on Tumblr. You are often able to speak to someone being a clear Renee... let me start that again. You are often able to speak to something being a clear Renee acting choice or totally playing to Lucy's personality. Just wondering how their openness and honesty in commentaries and interviews, like the coffee talks, when talking about their own lives, their approaches to acting, and their dynamic as a duo has impacted your experience watching and interpreting the show.
That's a really good question.
It's a really good question. Ooh.
Dang, those coffee talks are so good.
They are amazing. Everybody should watch them. I think it's a kind of tough, but at the same time, I want to say the more you see the two of them as people, or like, you know, obviously we don't know them, but like the more you see like what they present to the fandom in interviews and stuff, I think the more you see how their styles and personalities come through in the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
it's like an extra context layer that's added
exactly.
over things.
Like, and I feel like the easiest way to describe it is, you feel like Lucy and acting and being Xena is this more outward and also intuitive thing, where, you know, you see, number one, she is a crazy, awesome, hilarious, like funny person, and you'll start to see that in the show because they'll start to like write for that. But also I think that like just her method of acting is much more like instinctual.
Yeah.
Or as Vera, you like to call it,
magical.
Yeah. And you see that in like the behind the scenes footage of them. Like, she'll just be like, I don't know, being a goofball, and then the like action, and all of a sudden she's Xena. It's like, boom. And I feel like Renee is more of like the thoughtful, like an inward type of like, I have to study this a lot, you know, kind of.
Yeah. I have to like get in the moment.
And like
Renee
really
might be a Ravenclaw.
Yeah, it's true. So like there's like this kind of inward versus outward, like study versus instinct kind of dynamic, I feel like, that comes across in how you see. And I think that like for Gabrielle, like when you see like her in those like quieter moments, I feel like that's part of it. Like I'll always point those out. You see so much Lucy when Xena's being crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it just comes through more and more and more, which...
Yeah, well, a lot of it is improv. So
yeah, of course.
That is Lucy.
And it's her taking ownership of the character. Like, you can tell there was some discomfort in that early season where she's just, like, stoic all the time. Like, that is just so not reflective of who Lucy is. And I think, you know, that's part of why the characters slowly loosened up over the years.
Yeah.
I do just love any fandom where the actors are like that committed and like are willing to kind of really put themselves out there for the show. And I think that's very special to Xena, and a big part of why like I personally love the show is because you can really feel like not just how much depth there is in those characters, but how awesome those two women are behind the characters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
well, I was just going to say that I think, sort of touching upon what you said, personally, I just absolutely admire and love any show that allows a collaborative process between the, writers, producers, directors, and the actors. So Xena obviously did it, Battlestar Galactica did it, Farscape did it, stuff like that. Like, magic happens when you allow everybody to collaborate and contribute to the characters and episodes, obviously.
Yeah, it becomes more personal. It becomes better,
yes.
I think. The more brains you have in the mix, the more, like, kind of, the bugs get weeded out. Like, things just make sense. We were amazed when we watched the table read for the finale.
Oh, my God. It's one of my favorites.
A great feature on the DVDs. Like, a half hour of just the pure table read.
It's a workshop. Yeah, they're workshopping that script.
They go through every line, like, making sure that it's something the characters would say, that it's, like, the very best possible line for everyone. And I think that is just, like, that does not happen in television nearly enough. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Ugh, they're so great. And just like, also just the fact that they're such good friends and so close, and you can see that, and especially the question points out the like coffee talk interviews, which are, if you haven't seen them, really long. They're like an hour at least sometimes each. Every year they did them for a while after the yearly XenaCons. And they're just so like, I don't know, they're just so open, and just, you can clearly see that they're such good friends. And I think that comes through when you're working and you have like a close relationship that you need to have on screen as well. Obviously, it doesn't need to happen, like, because acting is acting, but I think it doesn't hurt.
It definitely doesn't hurt. And you see how much, having like tension in a relationship can actually hurt a show. Like, if you look at particular seasons of the X-Files.
Well, actually, it's funny because I was like going to say, for me, I know that there's tension, and I don't think that it shows in the show. I think that's what, like, David and Jillian are so great, and you knew that they had these problems, but I don't see it in the show. I don't feel any of their like years where they were at each other's
definitely
throats.
Maybe I just need to watch the X-Files again.
Yeah, like so that's what I kind of meant by like acting is acting, and like you don't, but like, dude, they're like just so great together. Oh man, everybody go watch those things.
Okay, so kind of changing topics now. We have Eric from Facebook asking, regardless of feelings towards the reboot, do you think it is important to have Xena on the air now for the new generation of girls and boys, whether it be the classic Xena or the rebooted version? That's a really nice way of thinking about the reboot. I was sure people were going to ask us for this mailbag, like, what are your thoughts on the reboot? Like, give us an opinion, yay or nay. And I think this is a much more nuanced take, which is that Xena's important. Like, I'm in favor of people watching Xena. And, like, if we need a reboot to, like, put that story back in front of people's eyes, then yay.
Yeah.
And, the reboot hopefully will lead to people discovering the original show.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that I'm obviously in favor of.
Yeah, because, look at a Star Trek reboot. So many people went and watched the original series afterwards who, like, hadn't seen it before. And obviously look at what Star Wars is doing. Like, I'm sure there's a whole generation of kids kind of who their favorite, and the first Star Wars they saw was The Force Awakens, right? But then their parents went and sat them down in front of the originals.
Lots of people are curious, and you go back and you just like see what came before. So yeah, I'm so in favor. And I loved that thing that we said. I feel like we mentioned this earlier. I don't remember when, but Javier from The 100, who was formerly in charge of the reboot but is no longer, had said that thing about wanting people to be confused with the idea that Xena actually was a historical, like, a figure like Hercules. And I think the way to do that is to keep telling stories about this character.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, please do more. so that can confuse people, because I want Xena to be in the pantheon of like ancient Greek heroes for real.
For sure, and keep it on the streaming services so that they can discover the original series. Thanks, Hulu. Yeah. Katie, you're up.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Hand of Glory on Tumblr asks, one of the things I love about listening to the podcast is the 3 adjectival co-hosts. I don't know. Sorry. I don't know. I'm like today. Words. Oh, excuse me. I've been drinking. Knowledge of media history and production technique. The original Xena series was influenced initially by its parents' show Hercules and by Chinese martial arts films, and eventually became an influencer in its own right. If you 3 were in charge of producing a hypothetical new Xena series in 2018, what influences, themes, or style / look might you choose to evoke, given how television has developed since the original series ended?
Oh my God, I have all the opinions on this one.
All right, go for it, Vera.
First of all, I am definitely in favor of a reboot. Again, I want a good reboot, a perfect reboot. I am in charge of it right now at this second.
This is Vera's reboot.
So, besides having my amazing cast that I will choose whatever from some unknowns. So, the look of it, the look, would be very similar to what Renpix have actually done with the shows following Xena. Yes?
Yes.
You were looking at me,
yes.
Katie?
I know what you're going to say.
Legend of the Seeker, specifically, right? It is gorgeous, and all the fights are amazing.
So like a lot, you would want like a lot of slow-mo.
Using the Phantom camera, yes. So, Legend of the Seeker specifically, I think, was like the perfect visual show because, I mean, the setting is the setting, right? So you could make it look good in Canada too, I suppose, if you need to.
I think we would all agree we still want it in New Zealand, right?
I mean,
I hope so. I mean, I can definitely imagine it happening in Canada, but New Zealand to me is so much a part of the DNA of Xena.
Yeah. But the important thing is the fights, right? Because you can't have Xena without fights. And the fights on Seeker were just cream of the crop. Like, Kaylin in slow-mo hair, fighting and twirling, that's what I want from Xena, right? So that's the look, right? The fights themselves would not be influenced on Chinese martial arts from the 70s and 80s that Ram and Co. were obsessed with, right? So I would go for, and again, creativity is a snake eating its tail. So everything that, they were obsessed with, like, I'm obsessed with the things that they were obsessed with, but made in the 90s/2000s and whatnot. So, like, you would have some Matrix influence.
Right, which actually used the same fight choreographer as those movies from the 70s and 80s.
But they looked so much better on the Matrix. So clearly,
because of bullet time and stuff.
Yeah, all the cool new camera equipment that is, latest and greatest that we could afford on whatever our hypothetical budget is, we would use. And then also, I mean, I haven't really checked it out yet, but I definitely want to. It's on our list. But Into the Badlands, I'm sure that their fights are amazing to look at right now.
I wrote that down, and I think on TV right now, it's the closest thing to, like, what Xena was doing in the 90s in a more now cable TV look.
Yeah,
because they're
absolutely.
They're doing this stuff. They're doing exactly this stuff. There's whooshy noises. And
I don't know about the whooshy noises, guys.
You need the whooshy noises, Vera.
I don't know.
I'm saying it in Into the Badlands.
Okay,
but like it's not. It's like
whoosh has no place in Xena's. In Vera's Xena.
I don't know.
I haven't seen it yet, but
you would have to try it out in the post-production room.
I watched some.
Maybe you could get a more like subtle whoosh, a prestige
this is
TV
what
whoosh.
This is what I was about to say. I think Into the Badlands does that because I have not yet watched it, but I watched a bunch of fight sequences on YouTube specifically for this question.
Hey.
And
okay,
they
prestige
are
whoosh.
kind
I
of
would take that.
Like
I would
a prestige whoosh.
Yes. So then the other thing is the humor. You cannot lose the humor of Xena. The humor of Xena was pretty amazing, but take it into this is again snake eating its tail influence, more of a Buffy style, right?
So wittier.
So I wouldn't say wittier, but like you just can't lose some humorous aspects. Like it's not going to be entirely serious, prestige TV. there would be some humor. And like currently on air, what we've seen that does this is Wynonna Earp, right? That's a heavily influenced by Buffy show. Also, serializing it would be for sure a thing to do. And Buffy did that really well with 22 episodes a season, where they came up with their big bads of the season, which I absolutely love that, and I would definitely keep that. That's my show.
Xena would fight a big bad every season.
So yeah, you come up with one big kind of like problem for her, and she would solve it. Hopefully.
I'd watch the show.
Yeah.
Wait, so you'd want it to be like in some kind of middle ground between like a prestige thing and a Wynonna Earp?
Yeah.
Like not
Wynonna
full
Earp
Wynonna Earp.
in look.
I mean, I sort of miss that. I miss having like a highbrow genre show on TV. You know, I feel like right now we have like straight, pulpy, like Wynonna Earp, as opposed to like BSG, which I think had more of a... It had more ambition.
Highbrow genre now is like Westworld, Game of Thrones.
Yeah, which that's true. Maybe I want middle brow genre.
Well, TBH, what happened is that like Xena and Hercules and stuff were so popular, and then genre became super popular on TV that like it stopped being direct syndication because people realized it was super popular. So now that we have
everywhere,
these shows made it go away because they were so popular.
But yeah, I guess I do sort of want that middle thing that's capable of being like really funny, but then also really serious.
Reminds me of the Mo Ryan, who's a critic for Variety, wrote an article about BTV. Which was like the just below the prestige level. Okay,
so what would be BTV? Spartacus. I know she loves Spartacus.
Like a Spartacus, like you know, like a Orphan Black at the time was part of it, but that was when it was in its like first season. You know. You what?
Nothing. I'm just looking at you.
I think Vera wants her Xena to be ATV, not
BTV.
Thanks.
Well, I would love to see it with the budget of like a Game of Thrones.
No, it can't be Game of Thrones budget. But I would love to see it.
What about like a Vikings? But like
Vikings is super expensive.
Glorious too. Yeah, I don't mind. I want it to be on cable. I do. I don't really want it to have that Canada look.
Well, that's
no offense to anybody from Canada. We love you guys.
They talk about it and it being on like regular NBC. I just kind of go like, no.
I mean, that's such a bad idea. That's doomed to failure, I think. I think it definitely needs to go to, I mean, what? NBC Universal owns Sci-Fi, for example. So
yeah. But I don't know that I want it to be. It would have to be like the BSG level of Sci-Fi of yore.
Yeah. Which was, I mean, that was an incredible...
we want that. Yeah, we want that for Sci-Fi to go back to making these more serious attempts at prestige. Yeah.
All right, so continuing on with our reboot topic, Raquel Robles from Twitter asks, if the Xena reboot happens, do you guys think X and G should have bangs? # important questions.
That is an important question, Raquel.
I have opinions.
Would they be like tapered? Because those are in.
Yeah, tapered bangs are in.
Okay, for sure, I say no.
No?
But they will have braids. The braids stay.
I think the
bangs
braids
go.
The braids are really
important.
pretty.
Yeah.
Braids are important. It would just depend, I feel, on the person that they cast.
Yeah.
So.
I think Gabrielle should have the pixie cut.
Immediately?
Like yeah. Little pixie.
Off the go?
Yep.
Okay.
To spare you for that first pixie, which is the worst. It
can slowly grow over the course of the series. It can be like a reverse.
Oh, okay. Interesting. All right.
Maybe she can have, like, Claire Underwood's hair.
Oh, speaking of Claire Underwood.
Can Robin Wright play Gabrielle?
Yes, that's my version. Robin Wright as Gabrielle. And Gal Gadot as Xena.
I see the transition before us.
Okay, so Rose on Facebook asks, did you see Wonder Woman? Thoughts? I felt like there were many Xena-related elements. You felt correctly, Rose.
So Katie has opinions on this one.
The first 30 minutes of Wonder Woman are like I don't even know what to say about. They are phenomenal. Like, I just was sitting in the theater freaking out. And I think that I'm very happy that this particular movie Wonder Woman in this particular style came out a year after I watched Xena for the first time, because it's just a confluence of stuff that is just hitting me right in a spot. And oh my god, yeah, loved Wonder Woman.
I remember seeing the trailer, and whichever trailer it was that just had her, the shot was her watching Steve's airplane. And so you're seeing the water, and it's like a shot of her back, and like the fact that it was like a cliffy beach, I was like, this is so Xena.
Yeah.
I couldn't handle it.
You know what you just reminded me was that, like, I'm pretty sure that the first reveal of her outfit, because it was for Batman vs. Superman,
Yeah.
Right.
was before I watched the show, and I remember seeing it and being like, "That looks like Xena," and I hadn't even watched the show
such an
yet.
iconic Xena look.
Yeah,
Xena's look
like
is so
I was
iconic,
like, that's just Xena's outfit, and I just do feel like, yeah, people who are like freaking out about this should go and watch Xena, because it's not, this stuff exists already. It's on this show, and you can go watch it. It just doesn't have as much. What was the camera?
Phantom
Cam.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Sorry. No, not me.
Oh, is it me?
No, it's
Oh, it's my turn.
Oh, okay.
It's cool, it's cool. I got it. Sarah on Twitter asked, with the success of Wonder Woman, there has been a renewed talk among Xenites of a Xena movie and or TV series. If it happened, how would you like to see it done? Because of Wonder Woman, there's been a new surge of articles about strong women in media, and it seems like Xena is always looked over. Do you think there is a collective fear of having a strong female hero being automatically labeled a lesbian? Is Xena not mentioned as much because of the subtext? These are questions.
yeah. These are huge questions. I mean, I think Sarah's right. I think she has a point.
Yeah, I mean, well, we sort of answered the
Yeah.
first one, right? Like, I think we are in favor of some kind of reboot.
Yeah. Oh, and I wouldn't mind if it looked like the first 30 minutes of Wonder Woman at all. Ooh.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I would have less like CG flying Amazons. My girls would do their own stunts.
Yeah, absolutely, Vera.
Absolutely.
You go, girl. You hire those stunties.
But, yeah, Xena is never in the articles. And
Yeah.
I mean, that was our mission statement with this podcast, is why is Xena never mentioned?
It's becoming almost to the point where its absence is a presence. You're
Yes.
like, it is the thing people can't talk about.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I do think that there is something to, like, the fear of labeling a strong female hero a lesbian.
Absolutely.
I do think the fact that Xena the show is so associated with lesbian romance and the lesbian subtext, like that, people class it differently from things like Buffy.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's absolutely true. And I've come across this in a bit of just researching with fandom, and just this sort of idea that, you know, Xena at the time was actually a lot more popular than Buffy, I would say, in terms of viewership. So people were watching it, but it didn't get the critical look that other shows were getting. And I do feel like part of it was a dismissiveness that sure had to do with some of the genre stuff, but also this idea that, like, oh, that's that, like, quote unquote lesbian show,
that show
without
where
a like
girls
deeper
kiss.
understanding
That's not serious.
of anything that
Yeah.
was going on. So I do think that there is a lot of validity to that idea for sure. Ooh.
And I think in Wonder Woman, they for sure went out of their way to make sure that the audience knew she's not a lesbian, even though, you know,
Diana herself.
Yeah, exactly, because they had that confusing conversation on the boat, her and Steve.
I was not confused by it.
But I think it was like very specific, and the fact that the entire, you know, the first story is her and this guy.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of appealing to a mainstream audience. Or so that's the popular wisdom, even though Xena, the show, was so appealing to a mainstream audience, despite being basically a gay romance.
Right.
Like, yeah, I shouldn't even say basically. That's what it is.
No, it is.
And people watched it and loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have this thing where, like, I feel like when it does come up in articles nowadays, I always really read what people are saying and very intensely, because I do feel like you can tell people who haven't watched it versus people who have watched it, because they'll bring up the subtext in a way where you can clearly see that they know that that's that show where there's a subtextual queer relationship, but don't really realize how canon it is and how important it is to the show itself. Like you can just really tell that even when it is brought up, there is this like just complete lack of understanding of what was actually going on with the show.
Mitch on Facebook asks, what are your thoughts on women's work in fandom? This particular fandom, but actually I'm interested in fandom more broadly. And what about the status/role/perception of femslash in fandom culture?
We could do a whole mini-sode on this question.
And we probably will at some point.
Probably will.
Yeah. Well, I guess let's start with the first part of this. Women's work in this fandom is kind of amazing.
Kind of the best of all fandoms.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I'm going to say it's the best fandom.
Fighting words.
No, the best.
Would you care to elaborate on that statement?
I just think that the Xena fandom, especially in its role in kind of the development of modern fandom as we know it, was doing the most unique and interesting things in its kind of own little corner of the internet. And I just think that having such a continuously large following speaks really highly of that fandom.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I feel like, there is, especially now, like in 2017 fandom, there really is like a mainstream fandom. And like you can like identify the characteristics of it. It generally has a lot of slash, male slash, like a very particular way of talking about characters, a very particular set of tropes that people like. I think it's really interesting that Xena is in this corner that just makes its own rules completely.
Yes.
Like the tropes are different. I mean, in part because it's from 20 years ago, but at the same time,
but that's what I mean.
I think even now, like the way in which people interact with these characters is different from what you would have.
Yeah, but I don't think like if the show's airing now, you wouldn't have so many of these things. They would follow the rules of fanfic now. You know what I mean? Like there wouldn't be Ubers, like things like that.
Certainly, like I came up in mainstream fandom, and I understand, that stuff is just so much a part of my vocabulary now. Yeah. I'm like, where's the AU? Where's the coffee shop?
Right. I mean, you would have those.
Yeah,
for sure.
They'd be there for sure.
Yeah, but like in the olden days, they would be
ye olden days of 1998
years ago.
Fandom.
They would have a different name for it, I guess. That's all. And then now our thoughts on status, role, perception of femslash in fandom culture.
Oh.
Yeah, this one's
This to me goes with the first answer, which is that for me, Xena has this kind of separate and different quality. Like it's in its own bubble. And I think like my perception of femslash is that it isn't mainstream fandom. It is very much in its own lane, and most of its practitioners don't really cross over into mainstream. They're just like that. It's really frustrating to me that you don't see like more intermixing. Like my previous fandom was Hannibal, which had
please leave the room.
There was a huge slash ship, which was the canonical ship, but there was also a secondary femslash ship, which was also a canonical ship, and it just had nowhere near the level of presence.
Right. So my perspective, and from the fandoms that I've been in, it's just fandom, again, where I've been, is filled with heterosexual women. The creators of the works are mainly heterosexual women who are interested in either the heterosexual canonical pairings or like not like the pairings, and they want their ships, which are het ships, to become whatever in their stories, or they're interested in slash, and slash is huge. That's male. These women generally are not interested in femslash because that's not what they're interested in seeing. As het women, they want two boys kissing. Like that's what they want.
Yeah, I wouldn't even limit that to just het women, just all sorts of women, right? Male slash. I just feel like there's an overarching issues in the real world are also issues in fandom. So you have these similar problems of like writing men a lot more than you do women, and then actually like getting rid of female characters in fic because they like get in the way of
the two boys kissing
and things like that. Yeah, and it's really fascinating when you think of how fandom is predominantly female, especially online.
Yeah.
Not obviously it's not all female, but predominantly so.
Certainly these spaces that have become the major places where fanish activities take place, Tumblr and AO3, those are female-dominated spaces.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of Tumblr, I happened across that there's that site, that Fandometrics one, that does like percents and things of like what's really popular on Tumblr for the week or the year or whatever.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was a little depressing when it came to especially this question about like perception of femslash and fandom, because I believe for 2017 thus far, and I'm not sure what the exact math is, but it was like 57% of all slash on Tumblr was slash, male slash. The next level was like 27% het, and fem slash was about like 15-16% of all of Tumblr.
Right.
Yeah, it's so small.
It's
and
a
it
niche
bums
interest.
me out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like, again, because specifically, from my perspective, het canon ships and slash ships, that's filled by these heterosexual women mainly, and fem slash is just so marginalized because interest. I wish it was more, I'm doing my best.
But I feel like what's so amazing about Xena is that a huge portion of what I think, I don't have numbers or statistics or things, so I'm just going on like gut feeling and, needing to do like lots more research and whatnot. But, obviously it was a super huge show that like many people watched, but when you're talking about just the fandom, it was made up like hugely of queer women. And
But when I think you were like looking at fic, right? And if you go back,
on AO3,
if you go like far enough, you get like Xena Aries or like Joxer Aries.
It was very
and, like,
interesting. Yeah, like
weird
I went
stuff like that
because AO3 is obviously way after this fandom, like the show had ended. Obviously, AO3 is a lot newer. It's if you don't know AO3, it's Archive of Our Own. It's the organization for transformative works runs it, just major fan run,
great place,
fan fiction archive, and you should go support it. But yeah, I went all the way back in the like Xena tag, and I don't know, I forget what year it started, but the first like 5 pages were all like Joxer Aries, and I was freaking out because I didn't understand what was
where
going on.
Where am I? What is this alternate universe?
Yeah, it was like really like interesting.
Well, AO3, like I said, is very much an archive united with mainstream fandom practices.
Yes.
And I think Joxer Aries as completely like other to us, like that is exactly what mainstream fandom would make of Xena.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I want femslash to be more popular in fandom as a whole. I was bummed out by these stats I saw the other day about how, non-popular it is, and actually how it's kind of actually decreasing in popularity, which I can't.
Wow.
And
That's
I
insane.
think, well, I'm going to say
like
that I feel like
not.
because these stats were based on like stuff going on Tumblr, I have a sinking and horrible feeling that a lot of it was to do with Clexa and the aftermath of Clexa, and the fact that fem/slash relationships on TV are the ones that are percentage-wise just much more fucked up by tropes than non-canonical male/slash. You had the like Bare Your Gaze trope that is just profoundly mostly female, and if this keeps happening, people are maybe less likely to keep doing this because of just being hurt by it over and over again. So I feel like the decline on Tumblr is probably because of Clexa.
That's crazy. You would think that, you would take matters to your own hands and at least create
that's
stories.
That's what I want. That's what I'm like kind of hoping, because I feel like I'm seeing a lot more of it lately. But that's just because I maybe am just more interested.
I mean, that's part of it, is that, we so much dictate what we see online now via filters and following who we follow and such. That, to my perspective, I'm like, I see plenty of femslash, but it's because you seek it out. It's always there for the finding, but it is pretty amazing to, hear these stats and realizing just what a tiny percentage it represents. Yeah.
Everybody go to TJ Femslash, the Femslash convention in LA that me and Vera went to, because it was super fun and just a great community of people getting together and loving women. So, yeah. I don't know. I feel like this is such a huge topic. I don't know if I'm articulating my feelings the best, so I feel like we need a mini-sode.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely a much larger topic. I mean, I would love to get into a conversation about, why is this? Why is it that, in our imaginative lives as fans, we can't imagine ourselves into a relationship between two women?
Right.
Why is that so unpopular within kind of the collective id?
In the main fandom.
That to me is a much larger conversation that I'd love to have at some point.
And why don't creators do what they do with Slash, which is get rid of the canonical woman standing in the way of your two boys kissing.
It's kill the men.
Kill the men. Have your two girls kissing.
Well, bless Xena and bless Xena fandom, because it is just the best. It really is just the best in terms of all this stuff, I have to say.
Okay, so kind of building on this conversation about fandom, we have Samantha J on Twitter asking us, do any of you read fanfic? And would you recommend any particular site?
I'm assuming this is about Xena fanfic, but also if we just want to say fanfic in general, we are all fic readers, I would say, to different degrees, perhaps.
I go through periods. There are periods where I'm a very heavy fic reader, and periods where I kind of take a break.
It depends on how into something I am, I think, for sure. AO3 is the place. Honestly, go give them money. But for Xenofic, maybe not so much.
I don't think that would be your one-stop shop.
No. But Xenofic,
unless you're into Aries and Jackson.
I mean, there are lots of Xena stories on AO3. But this fandom is overwhelming. Speaking of the work that people have put in to this fandom, I have never in my life been so overwhelmed. Maybe Doctor Who was the last time I felt overwhelmed by a fandom. And I am just now kind of wading into the Xena fanfiction waters, and it's very exciting. And I have decided to just deep end it. And
I like all your water metaphors. So appropriate for Xena.
So I have gone straight to Melissa Good's fic. And Melissa Good was a very big part of Xena fandom, and ended up writing 2 episodes in season 6. And wrote this Soulmate series that I'm reading right now. And I just started it, and I am fucking obsessed with it. So I recommend it to the point where I have read the very beginning of it. So that's where I'm starting, and I'll be reading it for the rest of the year.
I'm really excited to try some Uberfic.
Yeah.
I think that, to me, is where my interest is gravitating, just because I think that's so fascinating. And maybe just because I love Janice and Mel, and I want more stories for them.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Everyone's looking at me. I will read some. I don't read, guys. Remember, Xena.
Well, the next question that we got from Sarah on Twitter: have you ventured into the wonderful world of Xena fanfic, such as Ubers, Conquer fic, classic stuff? So yeah, there's all these different categories of Xena that is part of why I think this is just such a unique and interesting fandom that, you know, we're so used to, like, you know, AUs, but Xena jumping off of Xena's Girls has just created this whole world of its own with Ubers.
Like a tripartite structure. Like, these are the 3 kinds of fic you write, and everything can get classed that way. I think that's so cool and interesting.
Yeah. And then, like, the Conqueror stuff is from Hercules,
I
haven't seen
I know
yet.
I would be reading the shit out of Conqueror stuff. Like, because that's dark fic, and I'm all about the dark fic. Yeah.
Obviously, I'm jumping into the classic stuff. And then so everything was separated as well into the alternative and general, right? And alternative was where you would go if you wanted to see Xena and Gabrielle in a romantic relationship. And then the general would just be like the show itself. I feel like
that's really interesting.
Yeah. I love it. And there's so much, and there's so many sites. So I will definitely, Sarah, take you up on your offer for suggestions of what to read, because it's just overwhelming.
So would Liv.
Yeah, I would love just a curated list, because it is really hard to know where to begin.
Yeah.
We want the good stuff.
Yeah. That's kind of why I think I went straight to the Melissa Good series, because I'm like, this is going to be good.
We've seen her episodes of Xena. Yeah. We know she's a talented writer, so yeah.
Troy on Facebook asks, what unexplored aspect of Xena and Gabrielle's story arc do each of you think would make a killer fanfic?
Ooh, this is good.
Xena's baking skills.
Of course.
That's all I'm interested in.
I have 2 things that come to mind fairly immediately for my own self.
Mm-hmm. Hit us.
Is that I always... and this kind of goes off of a little bit of what you said earlier in terms of like what you would change about Xena, which is, you know, kind of the work of fic.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how
where
a lot
I
of fic
would
works.
love a lot more with Eve, adult Eve. I think that
baby
I
Eve
just
only.
think that baby Eve. No, just I think that like the Xena and Gabrielle and Eve dynamic is awesome and so fascinating and interesting, and the show doesn't do enough with what is going on there, and I just would love so much more of that.
And also, even general, you know, that character
she needs
needed way more
attention.
because she's clearly just like so important and then really great.
The other stuff that I would read are, and excuse me for this, I'm so sorry, I apologize. Like non-fix-it post-finale fics about Gabrielle.
Oh my god. Well, yeah, of course, because I would too. I mean,
too.
I don't want to get too deep into that conversation, but yeah, I want to know where that character goes after the end of the show.
I think that's so interesting. Oh, I would read everything.
Where does Xena go, guys? What are you talking about?
It's fine.
I'd also love more 10 years ago stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I would totally be exploring every little pocket of that backstory. And I'd love to see more of Xena in Amphipolis and her relationship with Cyrene. But yeah, I think, you know, I still have, in part because all the Cortez shit was so dumb, I'd love to go back and write a version of that actually, like, is worthy of the character. Like, that is some awesome, like, storytelling that could happen right there. Yeah.
Who's next?
Oh,
I forget. I lost
me,
the thread.
it's me.
Okay.
If you...
Okay, so Arcadia on Twitter would like to know, who would each of you guys be in the show? Example, Xena, Gabrielle, Joxer, Ares, etc. I feel like, you know, like, I wouldn't want to be any of the maids because, like, so many bad things happen to them.
I know.
I want to be Cyrene.
Yeah, really. I was honestly just like run my tavern, like, except for like what happens to Cyrene.
I know, yeah. It's like you don't want to be any of these people.
I mean, obviously, I'd love to like be Xena, if only to do like awesome flips. I would love to do an awesome flip.
Sure. I mean, I feel like in terms of just character that you relate to, like, I mean, like I relate to Gabrielle, but like could never be Gabrielle.
Yeah, that's
you know what I mean.
Yeah, I have the hard eyes for Xena, just like Gabrielle, but I'm not a Gabrielle at all.
Yeah. Are we the jocks?
Yeah, I think everyone is a
No,
jockster.
because I wouldn't even. Jocks is like even like braver than me, and like actually goes and tags along with them. I would be like,
Yeah, you'd be.
Yeah, I had that 1%
in the background.
Gryffindor.
Yeah. Oh,
mine was below Slytherin. Like Gryffindor, I had like 0.1%, if any percent.
Yeah.
Like I Gryffindor, I don't relate to at all as a house.
Oh, you know what? I'm Salmonius.
oh my god. You are Salmonian.
No.
I want to be Meg. I'll be Meg.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so Arcadia also would like to know, how are you guys doing?
I'm good.
Okay.
Could be better, could be worse.
Yeah.
And finally, our thoughts on trampolines.
I really like this question because it
Yeah.
actually reminded me of doing gymnastics when I was a kid and how fun that was to be like on the trampoline doing those like jumping.
Could you actually do the flips?
I don't think I did flips.
Because if that's like the only scenario in which I could imagine myself doing a flip.
I don't think
maybe if I were on a trampoline.
Trampolines, I believe, are an Olympic sport now, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to have like a little one, you know, the kind that you're supposed to use for like exercise in your house,
yeah.
like the tiny one to
My
just
mom
bounce
has that.
on. Yeah.
How
fun.
can you have that in a New York apartment? Doesn't your head just go through the ceiling?
Not if you have high ceilings. And trampolines have been used really well in some shows, right, recently?
There was a great trampoline scene in The Leftovers in Nora's first episode this season. Really awesome and cool soundtrack underneath.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of really great music, everybody should check out PJ Harvey's Black Hearted Love music video. Features a trampoline, and it's spectacular.
Nice.
So apparently we had a lot of thoughts on trampolines. Is it me?
Sure.
Katie.
Oh, Katie, go.
William on Facebook asks, how did the three of you meet, when, where, etc.? And then part 2 we'll get to after that.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
We need to, well, first you guys say how you met.
Vera and I met when we were 16 in summer school.
Summer school. It sounds like we were like failed high school.
That's true. No. We did not fail high school. We went to New York to do this film program.
Yeah, it was a summer film program for kids and juniors and seniors, right?
Yes.
We were juniors.
The thing I mostly remember about our friendship at that age is that my roommate there had a TV with a VCR, and Vera came in one night and was just like, guys, I need to tape Mr. Avalon. And I was like, cool, let's be friends.
It was so important. I was so looking forward to that.
Need it. You're my only hope, guys.
Yeah, so that's how we met.
While you guys were downtown, I was uptown in a different summer college program where we did not meet.
Yeah, and we did not. But it was crazy that you were in New York at the same time.
Yeah, because none of us lived in New York at the time.
None of us lived near. We didn't know each other.
But so podcast listeners, are you ready for how the three of us met? Are you ready? Are you ready?
Woo, woo! So ready.
All right. The three of us met because of a television show from the 1990s.
Oh no, you guys, Xena did not do it first.
The three of us became a threesome right now because of a little program called Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, the dark truth.
Now, all right, so I'll just date some dates. Okay, we don't need them, but Xena was not on the air anymore. Buffy was still on the air, and we all went to NYU. And freshman year, I was in an 8 a.m. writing class.
A mandatory writing
so
class.
disgusting.
Mandatory essay writing
Why
class.
would anyone do that to a person?
Well,
She chose that willingly, that
chose
hour.
8 a.m. because that
was
was
the only
that's
one
what time
left for
school
me.
starts.
Oh, I see.
And I was
That's
like,
so
look,
funny.
I got stuck with an 8 a.m. class.
That's the difference between you. Katie chooses this shit, and Vera gets stuck with it.
I just was like, well, that's kind of what time school starts. And I didn't really understand.
Not college.
Anyway, Vera also happened to be in the same class, and I wrote about Buffy in a personal essay that we had. had to write. And after having to read it out loud in the class, Vera came up to me. We had not ever met before and said, I loved your Buffy reference. And I was like, new friend! And then said, come watch Buffy in my dorm. We were both in the same dorm.
Yeah, like a floor apart.
I vividly remember walking into the dorm and Livy was sitting on the floor.
Watching Buffy.
Yeah, because I was getting you into Buffy at that time.
Yeah.
Guys, I got these bitches into so much good TV.
Hey, I was into Buffy already.
Yeah, it's true. But more like Olivia.
I literally had seen no TV. I only watched Smallville and The Simpsons. Right. Yeah. But I have this very vivid memory of I was really into Smallville, and then I saw the Buffy episode Selfless, which was airing at the time. It was airing live, and I was just like, Smallville, who? Like, I just dropped it like it was hot immediately. I was like, this is amazing. I'm going to watch this every week.
So yeah, thank you, Buffy, Vampire Slayer.
We owe it a lot.
Part 2, drink of choice while podcasting.
It's a great question.
Good question. Obviously, we're being a little louder than usual, I think, with our drinks this podcast, because this is a party podcast.
I mean, it's always a party podcast.
It's always a party podcast.
But this one's especially so we can have a louder drink. Normally, I would say our drink of choice is bullet bourbon with soda.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
sometimes scotch and soda.
Classic. Delicious.
Yeah.
Sometimes Deanston whiskey.
Deanston scotch. Like good drinkable whiskeys or bourbons with soda.
Yeah.
That you can just keep drinking.
And keep refilling.
That is definitely the drink of choice. It varies sometimes, but that's the main one.
We once had a wine from Marlborough in New Zealand. And I thought that was a really fun pairing with the Xena podcast.
Absolutely.
Was it during the minisode?
It was during the New Zealand minisode.
Oh, that's right. So yeah, that worked out really well for us. We're currently drinking something different.
Yeah, this is a bourbon Lancer, says the internet.
Bourbon Lannister.
A bourbon Lannister. It's bourbon and champagne and bitters.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's really loud.
We were like, this is gonna be gross, but it's pretty good actually.
Yeah. It is good. It shows that you can't make a gross drink. Famous last words.
Okay. Andy from Facebook says, hi ladies. Okay, so questions for the next podcast. Xena related. Which town the girls visited would you want to live in?
That is so hard.
I got like 7 answers.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. I would live in the northern Amazon place.
I thought about that, but then I was like, too cold.
Yeah, it's too cold.
But it looked good. You'd look really good. You'd be cold, but you'd be fashionable.
So I did think about like, number one thing that came to my brain, obviously, and we're really into Wonder Woman right now as well. I was like, obviously, I would live with the Amazons, and I was like, I don't know. I don't think I could do it. Like, and then my next thought was like, I want to be a rich bitch in Rome. Like, yeah, but like we're like really wealthy.
But those are the worst ones.
I know, but
the wealthy bitches in Rome.
But like,
you mean like you want to be in like Lucretia's household?
No, they
with
were
Lucretia
like
there.
Lucretia, Lucilius on Spartacus. They were like middling wealthy, and they did not live in Rome. They lived outside of Rome.
They were at best nouveau riche, and
they were like really struggling.
They struggled, and that was the best part of the show.
So like, not even that. But then I was like, oh, but that's awful. So then I was like, I want to live under the sea.
The sea.
Married with fish sticks, with my bouffant hairdo.
Oh my God.
And my mermaid outfit.
That is the best answer.
That is really good.
And I will have my mermaid bikini and my big hair. And like...
And it'll go to those funny water aerobics classes. Yeah, it sounds amazing. That's the life.
I didn't know we could like pick our wealth level. Because I was like, I would live in Egypt, but I'd be a slave. Because that's what would happen.
Oh, no.
I am Jewish.
Oh, gosh. Well, no, this is hypothetical. You don't have to be
really I could totally, I would own slaves.
You could be a samurai in Japan. Vera, you're kicked off the podcast.
Problematic coin.
Yeah, we didn't expect a problematic necessities.
You should have put one in for when I said I was Salmonius.
That's true. Let's put more in. There we go. Okay. Wait, are you asking me? I already answered.
Did you answer?
Yeah, I would live with the Northern Amazons.
Oh, you
fabulous.
didn't change?
No.
I don't want to live in Cyrene's bar?
I don't don't know. Amphipolis, it's like the small town that you have to leave to get out in the world and have adventures. So I feel
you've already been in the world.
It's very regressive to be like, I will live there.
Yeah, do you want to live in like Athens, the birthplace of democracy at this time?
Yeah. I did not think of it even, so I am the worst.
I would live in that town from A Tale of Two Muses where you can't dance. Because
Just 'cause you don't
I don't
like music.
want to dance.
What's the next question?
There's more questions.
Oh,
in
right,
here.
yes.
Not so Xena related. Which is your favorite era of movies?
That is almost an impossible question to answer.
It's I love everything.
Everything.
1970s horror.
I was gonna say that. I was gonna say
my God,
any horror
what a
film made between the years 1969 and 1982.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is it. That's the dream.
You know what? You're right. I was gonna say the 90s like reboot of 80s and 70s movies.
Also
so like
great.
so like the the Scream, which was kind of tapping into that, and like all the high school movies that came out, like 10 Things I Hate About You. And,
I do love the
the
90s
other ones.
action movies. I just think
No.
like they're not as excessive as the 80s, but they're still kind of excessive.
I think there's no better answer than what you guys said. So like that's legitimately it.
But you're obviously supposed to say the like 70s easy rider raging bull stuff. That's like the stock answer for like film buffs.
No. I mean, I love
And
everything.
as an NYU, peeps.
Yeah.
Anything Scorsese did back then is like gold,
Especially if it had 0 women in it, then it's
Right.
extra good. Okay, and then finally, seriously not Xena related question, which is your favorite toe?
Andy says we could ignore that last one because it's really hot in the UK.
I think we should
But I
answer
think we
it.
need to answer it.
especially because it's so hot in the
Yeah.
UK.
I hate feet.
So you don't have a favorite toe?
Not really.
They all suck.
Maybe I like your baby toe.
You know what? I was thinking about this. I also don't particularly like them. But I think it has to be like that third one because that's least looked at. When you look at toes, right? Stop looking at my feet, guys.
I'm looking at my own feet.
When you look at them, right, the first thing you do see is like the big one and the second one, right? And then sometimes you do look at the little one. But those middle ones never get any love.
I kind of like the second largest toe.
So that's the
it's
second
not,
one.
Next to the big toe.
Right.
Yeah, it's like the equivalent of your pointer finger. Mm-hmm. Just seems like the right proportion. Just looks right. That's the toe.
Not on everyone. The third one is the winner, and you know it. Next question.
Okay.
Oh, this is a sick one.
Yeah, this was a big one. That's why I took it. I was like,
Oh, okay,
I
good.
said I wanted to read it, and I'm going to read it. Okay. Beck from Facebook writes, bit of background to my question. I came to Xena Warrior Princess on UK reruns back when TV was analog and there were 5 channels and they all showed cheese documentaries. That's my addition.
Oh, that's what you think was going on in the UK?
Yeah, absolutely. Have you seen, what is it? That comedy.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. European Vacation.
Yeah.
Oh my
European
god,
Family
that's my
Vacation.
favorite joke comes from there when he like puts in the
flip
translator.
through the BBCs and
Oh
it's
my God.
all documentaries about cheese. Okay, so the new Channel 5 was not available everywhere, and in my region it was grainy, and I recorded Xena on video every week. I liked the show, but became utterly obsessed and addicted after the kiss in The Quest. So there is a vote in favor of The Quest.
The Quest is awesome.
Nope.
This, much to the consternation, with good reason as it turned out, of my then boyfriend. I think you guys know how the story's going to turn out.
Happy ending.
Happy ending. I clearly remember the impact the scene had on me. Heart thumping, rewinding time and again, sitting closer to try and pierce the terrible quality. A defining moment in me realizing my sexuality. Not bad for a TV program. Similarly, although not in a gay way, I remember as a kid on a winter's day, sitting with my back to the radiator, reading about Shelob in The Two Towers. and having to put the book down out of sheer excitement and a feeling that I needed to talk about this story with someone right now. I don't know, Beck. This could be in a gay way. You never know.
What? The spider?
Sam and Frodo?
Oh, they're
this
so
is like
gay.
the height of their romance,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
She-Love section. Okay, let me get back on track. Everybody needed to know about this fantastic story. That's why I love these podcasts. They provide my geek with an outlet without my mates locking me in a shed. Please don't let your mates lock you in a shed. This extensive preamble, apologies to waffling on, is to set up my question. What literary/film or TV scenes have impacted on you in this way? The ones where you vividly remember how they made you feel even years later. As film grads and fans, I'm sure you have some/many. That is such a great question, Beck. I hope you're okay with me having read a lot of it on the podcast, because I think it's just such a wonderful story.
It's an amazing story because I similarly had this with our favorite show, Buffy. It's coming up a lot.
Oh my God. We finally outed ourselves as Buffy fans.
But Buffy,
we have very much been Buffy fans the entire time.
We keep using it as kind of, devil's advocate. Buffy's not all that great. And we're like, no, we love Buffy. You guys
that's why we have,
it's
that's why we can say how, Xena did it first.
Yeah.
Because, we were genuinely Buffy fans.
Right.
I did have this exact experience with the channel because when I was growing up, we didn't have cable, and Buffy was, I feel like, on cable and then switched channels. So for a few episodes...
Where you were.
Yeah, where I was, in Indiana. A few episodes aired where this was WGN, I think, started. That's where it was. It was grainy to the point where you couldn't see the picture, but you could hear it. And I definitely watched an episode like that.
Just like a radio
audio
drama.
Because you couldn't see the picture whatsoever. Ugh. So I can't believe this happened to somebody else.
I'm glad. I mean, I feel like this was so much a part of the experience of watching TV, is that you had to fight for it.
Yeah.
You had to find it. You had to work. Mm-hmm. Now you can just stream it in half a second. But that was so much a part of that experience, was winning your chance to watch it.
For sure. Oh gosh. Yeah. So guys, favorite or big scenes that impacted you?
This is such a big question. I feel like so many in TV and film that have stuck with me that is just really hard to answer. But I feel like I want to say my equivalent to Beck's kiss scene in The Quest is definitely Deanna Troi making out with some ice cream in Star Trek The Next Generation.
Wait, is that an actual scene?
Oh, yes.
She makes out with it a lot.
And
that's a ship.
Describing what it tastes like. Anyway.
Wow.
Troi/chocolate ice cream.
This sounds kind of good.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Inner depths of Deanna Troi.
Mm-hmm. Let's keep on the Buffy track, because I feel like the first time I do remember just having a complete sob fest, and just freaking out watching TV was Becoming Part 2.
Oh my God!
When Buffy killed Angel and ran away. Yeah.
So she killed him, and what did you do, Katie?
I cried. I went into my mom's room crying and was like, "Mom, Buffy killed Angel!" Freaking out. Something was wrong with me. And then she was like, "Ugh, whatever."
Something is wrong with you.
I know. God. And I was just like, "Oh my God!" So that was a big thing. In terms of TV and storytelling, I vividly remember my first cliffhanger experience, which was the season 2 finale of The X-Files, when Mulder gets burnt.
Burn it!
In the boxcar.
Do you know what my first cliffhanger experience was?
The movie Cliffhanger?
Who Shot Mr. Burns?
Oh! Right.
I remember, being on a school bus, speculating intensely about, who did it, and going through all the suspects in Springfield. That was, a big thing for me.
Okay, so for me, for sure, the experience of you're sitting there watching it on your couch, but as the scene progresses, you find yourself on the floor getting closer and closer to the TV, was Buffy. but it was the episode Smashed when Buffy and Spike had sex.
Wow.
Because that was my first. I didn't know what was happening to me, which was like I was shipping an alternative couple, like that wasn't canon. And so the thing, if I was like on the internet reading fic or whatever, I'd probably be reading that, right? But I didn't know.
You'd be reading Spuffy.
Yeah, I would be reading Spuffy, but I didn't know that that's what was happening. So it became canon. So I was like, I didn't think it would ever happen. So I was like, whoa, crazy. And I ran to the computer and it was like, and then it was like on the bronze or whatever message boards and like reading people's reactions. So that was for sure a really big deal to me. But as far as Xena goes, I remember being really, really affected by the gauntlet on Hercules.
That's awesome.
And like trying to show the show to like my cousin, making her watch it and stuff, because I would like sleep over there sometimes on Saturday nights when the show was on. But yeah.
I wish I had more stories like that, because I really only discovered the storytelling possibilities of TV as an adult when I met you guys. Like, all of my stories are about, like, books and movies.
Well, there's books that were mentioned.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I mean, I did have an experience with Lord of the Rings, definitely. I think that same part. I mean, that's what makes these things so universal, is, like, you get to that and you're like, you know there are people out there who are having that transcendent moment, maybe even at the same moment as you do. That's what's so beautiful about it.
Lord of the Rings is the way it is, like, because Hercules and Xena existed first.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. But yeah, if that's going to be the last question on this mailbag, not to spoil you guys, but like,
don't answer it yet then.
Influence of Xena, like, look no further than Lord of the Rings. But yeah.
I thought you were talking about like J.R.R. Tolkien. I was like, what?
Xena went back in time.
Because he knows about Xena, the real person.
I kind of don't want to leave this question without doing a tiny bit of film and then also saying our mutual, the three of us, and I want to speak for all three of us, that I feel like non-Xena related watching TV that affected you deeply, that we watched at the same time, has to be watching the reveal of Laura Palmer's murderer on Twin Peaks in a basement in the woods in New Hampshire.
No, it
was a few years ago.
All time.
It was a life-changing kind of artistic experience.
And all of, I feel like my life-changing artistic experiences are David Lynch related in a sense, because I think that I went to NYU partly because of watching Mulholland Drive in a theater when I was 16 by myself. But then also because I love Titanic a lot, so who am I kidding?
I was going to say that as well. That was definitely the moment where I fell in love with filmmaking. I own it. I'm not embarrassed about it at all. I just like lost my mind watching Titanic. I just did not realize a person could feel this way. I just was so overwhelmed. And I remember very vividly that friends of mine like went back the next day to see it, and it just hadn't occurred to me that you could watch a movie multiple times. Because even though I probably was doing it as a very small person watching, Winnie the Pooh or something, like the idea of, as an adult, the fact that you could love something and like want to live inside it and actually go and do that and watch it, like that like clicked for me. I feel like that's when I understood fandom in a way. I was like, oh, like art doesn't have to be disposable. It doesn't just have to be this moment where you experience it and walk away. Like you can make that your life if you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like musically if I was doing something like that, and I think that kind of I must have been with Tori Amos, because like I feel like I made you guys all listen to her stuff.
Vera tends to make the rest of us listen and watch and read things.
Yeah.
You're the biggest culprit of just like pushing your stuff on us.
It's true.
It's usually good though, so we let it happen.
This is a great question.
This is an amazing question. And I'd actually love to hear more from you guys about what your defining moments were for TV, movies, art, etc. Yeah, amazing question.
I have no idea where we are in the order of reading questions.
I'll just take that. Cool. The next one. Why not? So Jerica on Twitter asks, any of you gals on other podcasts or projects we may be familiar with or should familiarize ourselves with?
That's a hard word.
That is a hard word. And I've been drinking.
I mean, well, Vera.
Yes.
Vera and I had a podcast before this that we did together called Caps Lock and Cray, which was a multi-topic pop culture podcast.
Yeah.
And one of the last episodes that we did was about Xena.
Yeah.
We had only watched season 1
and
at the
2
time.
episodes of 2 or something.
So if you want to hear me and Vera, and me especially, who hadn't seen it before, in my Babytown frolics opinions about Xena, and my very slowly losing my mind stage post season 1, you can check out that episode.
I actually haven't seen it, and I'm really excited to. I think that's a really important cultural artifact, documenting the moment when we were like, "Ooh, Xena!" Even though I'm not there, I'm there in spirit.
I mean, if people want. You guessed it on some episodes.
I did, yeah. So. I guessed it on an episode where Vera spoke about Sofia Coppola and I spoke about M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
our fave directors.
And I think some Hunger Games episode too.
That's right. And also about the Hunger Games.
And then partially we also did a podcast where we talked about Game of Thrones and Outlander together because they were on at the same time. Yeah. It was sort of part of the same podcast, was called Thrones and Kilts. Olivia, you did one of those as well.
Oh, I don't even remember that.
But
I was part of the group.
Unfortunately, can no longer do that because they're not going to be on at the same time anymore. Yeah. And, alas.
Also, you're doing this podcast. So.
We're good on podcasts.
But if anybody goes back and listens to our Xena episode of Caps Lock and Cray, spoilers, I absolutely talk about Stevie Nicks Fajita Roundup.
Of course you do. That's your favorite Xena story. We'll definitely tweet out the link to that, you guys, because I'm sure there is going to be some interest. Okay. Mitch from Facebook asks, what are your podcasting influences? Do you listen to other podcasts? Have they given you ideas?
I listen to tons of podcasts because I have a job that allows for me to sit and listen to podcasts all day. So I think that influence-wise for this one that we're doing right now for Xena, in terms of how we talk and how we want to talk, our conversational style, definitely influenced by the Twin Peaks podcast, Diane.
But Xena did it first because we were on first.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, but now I'm listening to it.
Yes.
I just think that they talk about that show in a very excellent way. I have obviously outed myself as a murderino several times on this podcast. That would be the My Favorite Murder podcast, which is a true crime podcast that I love, and it's super great. And their style is just more kind of shooting the shit together, but talking about murders. It's so good. I love it so much. So I feel like that vein of podcasting is sort of the influence for me specifically. Buffering the Vampire Slayer was kind of the podcast that I listened to that made me want to do this podcast. Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
I also know we kind of used as a reference point the podcast about the X-Files, X-Files Files.
Yes, X-Files Files.
Kumail Nanjiani's X-Files Files was an amazing podcast and huge influence for me also doing this podcast. I wish he did not stop.
I know. I'm so bummed.
So good.
Yeah. But definitely a lot, I think, of what we're doing specifically, if you're talking about influences, for sure, is a combination X-Files Files, Buffering the Vampire Slayer, which is appropriate, because those are the big 90s shows that Xena was on at the same time with.
And that were just so, big in our lives.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I think, have they given you ideas as part of the question? For sure, buffering and the way they, in the early episodes, talked about the word patriarchy, gave us the idea for how we would go about using the word problematic, or at least for me.
Oh wow, I don't even know about this. Yeah. How do they use patriarchy?
Well, they don't have a jar or anything like that, but from my memories of the first few, they just would make a note of every time they were saying the word patriarchy. I got to go back and catch up on a whole bunch of those.
This is so funny because, you know, we talk so much about Buffy and Xena being on simultaneously, and you're not really sure, like, where the ideas are coming from. It's like something in the air. We have Buffering and Xena Warrior podcast airing simultaneously.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who came up with problematic/patriarchy first? We don't know. Okay, so we have another question related to podcast recommendations. Starling Shrike on Tumblr asks, do you listen to more podcasts that are ladies talking to each other about their interests, a la My Favorite Murder and Xena Warrior podcast? Need more ladies being goofy and chatting in my ears. Don't we all?
Yes. I have a few.
Hit us,
Go for
Katie.
it.
So the aforementioned Buffering the Vampire Slayer is super great. My favorite podcast that I absolutely love, it's not ladies being goofy so much, but Faculty of Horror, if you are interested in horror film, is these two awesome women who have an episode once a month, and they're very academic. They do their research, and they're just really awesome talking about horror movies. And then you mentioned My Favorite Murder. Hello, fellow Burrito. If you are looking for another thing in that vein, White Wine True Crime is another one.
That's an amazing name.
A bunch of, yeah.
I want to listen to that just based on the name now.
Talking about stuff. Yeah, those are my biggest ones. Stuff You Missed in History Class is another really good one.
Is it all ladies?
Yes, two ladies and talking about history.
Nice.
Katie, you really are a podcast authority.
I just sit at work and listen to podcasts. That's what I do.
I'm ashamed to say that the only podcast I listen to is ours. I really need to get out more.
I also just generally recommend How Did This Get Made?
Yeah, that's one of my favorites as well. I would have said that, but you just wanted lady voices. However, June's voice and or their lady guests are pretty great.
Yeah, it's Paul Scheer's podcast where they make fun of bad movies.
It's so great.
And then if you like just TV and pop culture and stuff, I also really like NPR Happy Hour, which is really fun and smart because it's NPR.
Okay, so next we have Geshert Sarmiad. Again, I get this one. Tumblr. And Mitch asked Mitch from Facebook that is, do we record in the same room?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
We're all here looking at each other. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Yeah, I have to stare at your faces.
Ugh.
Mitch and Lisa, both from Facebook, ask, how long does it take to make an episode? That's a good question. It takes about a week. It takes the week. What do you say?
You're right. It's like shooting an episode of Xena.
We record about a week before we post. And in the interim, we do some edits and get ready to share it with you guys.
Yep. Shout out to Livy and Vera who do all the editing because I don't know how. And they're just amazing at it. Whoa, what do you mean we edit the podcast?
Yeah.
Mysteries.
Katie?
Yes. Bakai 15?
Maybe it's just XV.
Maybe.
Could be. It is definitely 15, right? That's like numerals. Roman numerals.
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
Well, I'm certainly wondering what other mini-sode topics you might be doing in the future. Yeah, we're definitely planning on mini-sodes for sure. We definitely have stuff up our sleeves.
We were hoping to do them a little more frequently than we have been.
Yes.
The podcast itself has been just so all-consuming that we just haven't really had the brain power to do extra stuff.
And I think it was really important.
Just the time,
Yeah, it's the time, and we all have full-time jobs and things. But we definitely are planning on doing more, and we did want to keep just the momentum going with doing episodes. But we have stuff up our sleeves. And we do have ideas for them. I don't know if we want to say what any of them are.
Yeah, I mean, that's Olivia from Twitter's question. What other kind of minisodes we would be doing.
Yeah.
Like how we did that New Zealand one.
Right.
There'll be topics adjacent to Xena, like for instance, like our conversation about femslash from earlier. That would be a good idea for a mini-sode. So you can expect to see maybe like some stuff about various film genres or about other projects that RenPix has done. Those are some glimpses into our thinking for what mini-sodes might be like.
Yeah, I forgot in that New Zealand one, Katie, did you kind of list off a handful of topics?
Yeah, I mean,
I talked a little bit about it.
I remember floating that melodrama idea, which I still really wanted to do.
Oh, totally.
Nice,
Don't worry, we have a list and we have plans. Yes.
But yeah,
this might be
our
related, the next question, to some of the plans.
Ooh.
Right?
Yes.
SAC on Twitter asks, do you guys have any plans to do the animated Xena Hercules movie? I have not seen this yet.
Nobody's seen it.
Very excited to.
Yeah.
As I think I have said before as well, Vera and Olivia have seen, but I have not seen a whole bunch of episodes that Lucy and Renee were on Hercules.
Yeah.
I haven't seen those yet. I maybe saw one.
Those would definitely be good candidates
for sure. I think we want to talk about those too.
And also Callisto.
Yeah,
absolutely.
for sure.
Okay, so Peggy on Twitter asks, how much money do you guys have in the problematic jar so far?
Take it away, Liv.
Well, Peggy, Vera and I both went to the trouble of counting up that jar for you. And here is the final total. $9.26 USD dollars plus, wait for it, 3 pounds and 35p, that's UK pounds, plus 566 yen, Japanese yen, plus 105 kroner, those are Icelandic kroners. So, yeah, we've been throwing random denominations of coins in the jar. And I guess at some point we have to do some calculation.
Yeah, as to what that actually
Yeah, we have to go to the currency exchange. I mean, you can't because they don't accept coins. That's why I have so many coins from other countries. But, yeah, we'll do our own version and make sure that when we donate this to the ACLU or wherever we're donating things.
I don't think. Well, yeah.
We will definitely put that into dollars.
It's definitely going somewhere awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right,
and it will be more than $9.50.
Yeah, well, we haven't done so much of
it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say that the second half of the show is way more problematic than the first half. So that jar is going to get filled.
All right. We're down to our last question.
Yeah, it's from Nora on Twitter. What would TV look like today if Xena never aired?
This is the biggest question.
It's the easiest one. No.
It is the world's most difficult question to me. Because partly, again, as I said earlier, one of the reasons we're doing this podcast is because we feel like Xena doesn't get talked about enough and gets overlooked all the time. So thinking about its influence on TV is an interesting question, I think.
Yeah.
And like, if it had not been on TV, would TV look different? Like, what would be different about it?
Well, my answer to that was that if Xena never aired, then what would Joss do for Buffy? So Buffy would be different and weird, and it wouldn't be such a huge influence on so many things.
It's true.
Itself.
No, I think that it is absolutely valid that in the mid-90s there started a trend of having these very powerful female characters, and I think that the popularity of Xena by the time Buffy rolled around would have been a factor. I can't say this with any kind of definitive accuracy, but I feel like if you are a person at the the WB, you would look at something like the popularity of Xena and greenlight a Buffy that was a failed movie that was not very good. Yeah. You know what I mean? And be like, there's room in the world for this, that then led to so many more amazing characters like that, and not just
Dark
Buffy.
Angel, Birds of Prey.
Well, no, but I'm like a Sydney Bristow's, and like
absolutely.
something like a Starbuck.
Yeah.
on BSG. You know, you have that kind of a ripple effect for sure that I think like you cannot just attribute to Buffy or you know what I mean, like you can't.
It was a push. It was you know the thing with influence is it becomes very hard to trace back to one patient zero.
Exactly.
Influence kind of appears in different places and intermingles and kind of becomes this force, this idea.
Exactly. And just in terms of narrative storytelling, like we were surprised at how much when we first watched Xena it was doing in terms of telling these long form stories that was just like coming off of Twin Peaks for genre, coming off of the X-Files and things like that, where you know it's all part of I don't know what it is, a continuum or like, you know what I mean?
Taking like soap opera storytelling into like serious dramatic storytelling. Like I think these were things that were just happening to TV starting in the 90s. And Xena was absolutely a part of that.
And of course, as we said before, like New Zealand is a huge visual thing in TV and film now, I think. And it started with Hercules and Xena.
Yeah,
for sure.
You know, all like basically every department head on Xena ended up going to Lord of the Rings. So all of those people created some really important movies for the first decade of the 2000s, and those movies have gone on to influence so much about like big budget tentpole filmmaking. So I mean, I know that doesn't quite answer Nora's question about what would TV look like today, but it's an important thing to note that Xena influenced movies in a major way.
Totally. And like the fact that it was doing a lot of stuff like really meta stuff, I think had to be one of the first shows just being so meta about itself. And the just way that it combined so many genres pre the stuff that we usually associate with stuff that combined so many genres, and people were watching it. And so it had that effect for sure.
And of course, moving into the fandom sphere, the fact that the creators of Xena had a two-way relationship with the fandom. It's really one of the first times that it happened where like the fans had a direct through line to the production and like could influence it. And
for sure.
And then the production itself would comment on the fandom in these meta episodes. So that has become much more prevalent as a relationship between creators and fans today, especially with things like Twitter that just connect people so easily.
Totally. And I do think the popularity of a show like Xena, as we had previously spoken, being so popular and being very genre, led to the more mainstreaming of genre that we see now. I think it had a huge, I think that is probably one of the biggest things, just this idea that you had all these shows that kind of were, I don't want to call it like direct syndication, like sideblinding it or anything like that, but it's not on prime time broadcast TV. It's direct to syndication, right? But I think the popularity of these shows, like going into like Seeker might have been one of the last ones that I really remember, right? Because I think but it was popular. Yeah. In a way.
It got canceled.
Yeah. But I think that the popularity of these things and the way that fandom attaches themselves to shows like these, and you see how important they are, mainstream genre in a way that now you have Game of Thrones on HBO. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You
have something like Sense8, which Netflix just canceled, but the fandom pushback was so strong that they're bringing it back for at least a single episode.
But you can trace that back to Farscape, which did that with their final movie, which then led to Firefly getting Serenity.
Oh, yeah.
Or the people protesting Roswell's cancellation by sending hot sauce to the WB.
Oh, yeah. But did they get anything out of that?
Nope.
That's what I mean. I can't trace back how many times people have tried. You know what I mean? But
this is the
many have tried.
When they've succeeded.
There
are examples. La Femme Nikita on USA also got 5 extra episodes.
This is another big conversation that I could even be another minisode that's not really about Xena, but just the idea of now how fandom is so popular and so mainstreamed that actually now corporations are like seeing how they can make money off of the work of fandom and things like that.
Which would definitely be the end of fandom as we know it.
It is
not
almost,
to be alarmist or anything.
I am in a little bit of an alarmist state because I don't really know where it lives right now because all of the platforms are very, I don't know, not the best. So yeah, this is like a tangent topic that I feel like we can come back to some other time.
Minisode?
Yeah.
I do think, like, talking about Xena's influence, I can't help but think, like, Sam Raimi, a producer on Xena, not necessarily heavily involved, but obviously creatively he was important in its beginnings, goes on to direct the first Spider-Man movie and the second Spider-Man movie and the third Spider-Man movie.
The third Spider-Man movie.
Which we don't talk about. But, you know, those movies were the first movies in the superhero boom of the early 2000s. Excellent. And, like, they created, like, basically what we have today in terms of fandom, which is so much like around Marvel and DC.
Crazy.
So, I mean, you can trace all of this back to the Raimis and Duran picks. They mainstreamed a lot of these more hardcore niche nerd interests. Yeah.
Xena did it first.
I'm looking at right now. We have a picture of Wonder Woman that I can see from where I'm sitting, and I just, does that movie look the same? Like, does this movie look the same with Xena having not existed? Do you know what I mean? Like, it just feels so, even if they don't know that they're doing it, it just feels so much like a successor to it that you know what I mean? I feel like this movie is part of this show. Even if like Patty Jenkins and people who were not in the production were like had no idea what Xena was, like it just feels like it's part of something.
Well, I think if you were to close your eyes now and imagine what a powerful woman in the ancient world would look like, you know, on some level, Xena is functioning there. So Xena is sculpting your imagination and the way in which you're gonna visualize a character like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Really great question, Nora.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Great questions all around, guys.
Yeah,
These
thank
were
you so
amazing.
much. We got so many more than I think we even imagined. So,
Yeah, this is like 2 hours.
I think, and I think that we have more to answer. So, yeah, we will
keep sending them, I guess, guys.
Keep sending your questions and comments and stuff. And we'd love to read them in future podcasts and answer them in future podcasts for sure.
We've certainly loved all the discourse happening with us and between you guys on our various social platforms. Thank you for participating.
Cool.
And loving Xena.
Enjoy, if you're in the U.S., your 4th of July holiday week.
I don't know. We got a week
couple
to
of
celebrate.
days, I guess, if you're depending on when you're listening to this.
We hope it's cooler in the UK now.
Or Canada Day in the
Canada.
In the Canada.
I'm sorry I said that stuff about your TV, guys. I love it.
Canadian
I love
TV.
it, but there's a certain look to it.
All right, cool.
Follow us on all the stuff.
Please check us out on our website, Xena Warrior Podcast. Links to everything are there. Listen, take this opportunity to catch up, listen to past episodes. We're on Apple Podcasts. Please subscribe, rate, leave reviews. We always love to hear what you're thinking.
And it helps people find the podcast.
Helps people find the podcast. Just keeps us going, really. It really does. Follow us on Twitter at Xena Warrior Pod. And we're also doing fun stuff on Twitter. No, I already said Twitter. Yep. Facebook and Tumblr. Xena Warrior Podcast. Cool.
The power.
The passion.
The podcast.